Virtual debate number 3. Did humans evolve from apes? Socrates' son versus refuting Orientalism. Let's go.
Tim, however, is just interested in the evidence. He's dug up hundreds of human-like skulls from the same valley in Ethiopia. Carbon dating has put them at different ages. But can Sam put them in chronological order by sight alone?
So let's go. Let's take that one. That one is right from...
What is that?
That's from 1 million years old.
Oh, it's like this. So these are the eyes. Well,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
So I suppose it would probably go over here because the where the brow comes up is more
Perfect.
similar to this one.
You got it. Careful now. They may not be the real fossils, but there's only one copy in the United States, so we don't want to break it.
I'm probably going to put this one here, I think.
Now, you got the order exactly correct, because what we find is that's the closest to the top. Oh, you got one out of order, the Kenyan one. So that's just,
Is that right there?
that's good, that's good. And then we get back to 4.5 million years ago. Now remember, I talked about one valley in Africa, one stack of rocks. Now, according to the idea that humans haven't changed and that we should find humans all the way back, now we've got a problem in terms of the evidence, because we don't find any of those guys down in the early records, and we don't find any of these in the later records. So it looks like that model, where it should be all humans all the way back, fails.
It says a lot. I mean, I understand what your logic is. I understand how you got here. I haven't seen a case of natural selection making an organism change from one species to another species.
Neither have I, because we don't live long enough, bro.
One second. I think that's an
We don't live long enough. The neat thing we've got in this fossil record is nearly it's not conjecture, it's evidence and reason. We have almost a kilometer of rocks, over a kilometer, and we can actually ask the question, what do we see when we go back through time?
So in this valley...
And this is what we see.
You're on the wrong end.
I was waiting for somebody to do it. I thought it'd be blabbermouth, but you got in there first.
yeah.
Hearing all of this,
So the first line of evidence for chimp human common ancestry is the video I just showed you. The fossil record, in other words. So if you doubt evolution, explain how from the same valley in Africa we find gradual fossils, not time crossing, evolutionary era consistent from an ape to human. That is like a photograph. In fact, that is stronger than a photograph because you can Photoshop a photograph. The Muslim guy in this video said, but we haven't seen. Wait just a moment. What do you see in front of you? How come we find human fossils only in the Holocene period and not in the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, not in the other 20? Why? Why God waited 2.5 billion years to make humans? But let's see this graph. It fascinates me. Look how many species existed before humans. And humans appeared just in the tip of time. If we take Earth's history in 24 hours, humans existed just for 1 minute. Modern humans for 4 seconds.
Bismillah. So today we are debating is human evolution true? Now, while this is mainly focused on human evolution, there are some general points regarding evolution in general that will come into play as well, because those are the things being assumed here. Let's get started. So here are some general points, right? The claim regarding human evolution is based on two things: the mechanism of transformation from chimp, the common ancestor of human and chimp, to humans, right? And basically the common ancestry and the mechanism, these are the two relevant things important here. For human evolution to be taken seriously, both of these things have to be correct, because if you just have similarities but you don't have the mechanism, so what then the human evolution is not proven. Because why? because similarities were known before Darwin. These were the things known before Darwin. Just similarity does not prove human evolution. You need to give a mechanism, a proper mechanism of this change. Now, basically, in right now, I'm just making my arguments against Darwinism and human evolution. In the rebuttal, I'll address my interlocutor's arguments. First argument against human evolution and basically being false. The main mechanism for evolution that has been proposed throughout the centuries is neo-Darwinism. This is false, and it's actually very easy to see why this is false. The simplest proof for this being false is that the fossil record is the exact opposite of what neo-Darwinism predicts. Now, I'll just read one references because this is something that's well established. Even atheist evolutionary biologists generally don't deny that fossil record does not support Darwinism. University of Pittsburgh anthropologist Jeffrey Schwartz states that we are still in the dark about the origin of most major groups of organisms. They appear in the fossil record as Athena did from the head of Zeus, full-blown and ready to go, in contradiction to Darwin's depiction of evolution as resulting from gradual accumulation of countless infinitesimally minute variations. So Darwinism is dead. And now for my second argument against human evolution. This basically assumes universal common ancestry, right? Here's the problem with this. This is based on circular reasoning. Why? Premise 1. Similarities are due to common descent. Similarities exist. Premise 2. Premise 3. These similarities are due to common descent. This is circular reasoning. To avoid circular reasoning, you need to independently prove premise 1. That similarities are due to common descent. To do this, atheists need to show that first common descent is correct and common design or physical necessity are false. This needs to be shown before we go to the false fossils because this is the underlying assumption. Atheists need to disprove common design here and physical necessity. Moreover, there's an even bigger problem here. There are numerous cases in biological life where similarities are recognized even by atheists as not being due to common descent. Here are two references regarding this. One paleontologist goes as far to say that convergence or homoplasy, similarities that are not due to common descent, are ubiquitous. If this is the case, then premise 1 of this argument that's of common ancestry is dead. Now, just to give a fourth point here, if Darwinism is true or human-ship common ancestry basically true, right? Human behavior should conform to Darwinism. But this does not happen. We have altruism, basically people being charitable when it is of no benefit to them. We have people acting dozens of times basically in ways that directly contradicts what neo-Darwinism would predict. So, I think these are very strong reasons for thinking human evolution is false. I'll get to my arguments for interlocutor's points in the rebuttal.
My interlocutor did the Sobur Ahmed fallacy of quoting scientists who are critical with a strict neo-Darwinian mechanism and presenting them as intelligent design proponents. Jeffrey Schwartz, he quotes to conclude Darwinism is dead, believes in natural selection and mutations responsible for the evolution of humans from apes, but then he says this.
Schwartz argues that molecular change is brought about only by significant environmental stressors, such as rapid temperature change, severe dietary change, or even physical crowding. If an organism's stress proteins are unable to cope with a significant change, the genomic structure can be modified. However, Schwartz notes, a mutation also can be recessive in an organism for many generations before it is displayed in its offspring. Whether or not the offspring survives is another matter. If it does in fact live, the presence of this genetically modified organism is not the product of gradual molecular change, but a sudden display of the genetic mutation, which may have occurred myriad years prior.
Will my interlocutor own his own reference to Jeffrey H. Schwartz expertise and research and accept humans evolved from apes, or he will only accept the part of Jeffrey's research doubting the strict neo-Darwinian mechanism? That is a good question.
And it's actually very easy to see why this is false. The simplest proof for this being false is that the fossil record is the exact opposite of what neo-Darwinism predicts. Now,
my interlocutor here, carried away by the passion of his youth, makes a very extreme, blunt statement that he cannot possibly support. The fossil record, he says, is the exact opposite of what Darwin predicts. Given the fact the fossil record is consistent with Darwin's theory, except missing links that might drive some evolutionary biologists to doubt the strict neo-Darwinian mechanism and propose more radical mechanisms to explain those links, like networking and abrupt mutations, as Schwartz said, the fossil record is still gradual, is still evolutionary scaled in time, not time crossing. You don't find, in other words, any fossil in the wrong geological period, etc. In fact, what is the exact opposite of the fossil evidence is the Islamic creation story, where all species appeared at the same time and we should find human fossils all the way back, and modern species dwelling with dinosaurs, for example. So my question is two-part. Does my interlocutor accept not all species appeared at the same time, according to undeniable evidence? Okay, and secondly, will my interlocutor, according to his own logic, accept the Islamic creation story is in flux according to the fossil evidence? To be consistent with the most undeniable fact of the fossil record, that not all species appeared at the same time, what you need to assume is that Allah made species from thin air billion times in all human history. Even now, as we speak, Allah might make us a new species from thin air. So is that what you believe happened?
Honestly, I'm surprised at the level of desperation of my interlocutor, because to be honest, I can't decide whether this is due to a lack of knowledge or just massive dishonesty, because this is getting pathetic, to be honest, at this point. So my interlocutor first, basically, he claimed that I was basically saying that Jeffrey Schwartz is an intelligent design proponent. Can you timestamp where did I say that? That's a lie. Secondly, he said that if I accept one aspect of his research, I should accept all aspects of his research. Why? Literally, why? And as far as the fossil record is concerned, seriously, I am not even saying something that is controversial. This is recognized by mainstream atheist evolutionary biologists that the fossil record does not support Darwinian evolution. According to Darwinism, fossil record has to be gradual, with gradual changes. The fossil record is diametrically opposite of that. There are sudden abrupt appearances of species, and there are dozens of references for this. I am giving 4 here. Seriously, pause the video and read all of these. Don't take my word on it. Check out the references themselves. Atheist evolutionary biologists will themselves admit that fossil record buries Darwinism. Secondly, I think my interlocutor doesn't really understand Islamic issues, and basically he said that according to Islam, all species need to appear at one place. Where does the Quran say that? Where do the Hadith say that? I mean, seriously. This is not the Islamic position. Species can appear at different times. There is no issue in the Islam with this. Now, just to go over, so I think his rebuttal is done here because that was stupid. Now, just to go over some general problems with Darwinian evolution, right? The assumption is just because there are fossils similar to humans, we must have descended from them. This is an assumption. It needs to be argued for, and the only reason atheists are accepting this is because of intuition. Now, the problem here is very simple. Design in biological life is intuitive. No one denies this. Even the atheists don't deny this. If intuition are arguments, they are in both cases. If they are not arguments, they are not arguments in both cases. You can't use intuition in one place and not in another. This is cherry picking. Now, there's another false assumption here. The assumption is that if God was going to create humans separately, they should be different from existing life forms. Why? Literally, why? God can choose to create humans in a body similar to existing life forms or different to existing life forms, right? What's impossible or implausible about either one? The atheist claim is based on basically nothing but subjective value judgment that if God created human should have been different. Why? The atheist needs to prove for his claim to work that God didn't create human life because they are claiming it. They don't even bother to attempt to prove this point, they are just using intuitions. Now, just to go understand this point, my interlocutor was claiming that there are no scientific issues with human evolution. There is a massive gap problem with the in the fossil record with regard to human evolution. This is one reference for it. This is another reference for it. These are mainstream evolutionary biologists. There's a massive waiting time problem. Basically, the required evolutionary change, even according to atheist evolutionary biologists, requires 216 million years. The fossil record suggests that change took place in 6 to 20 million years. So there is a massive waiting time problem as well. Seriously, the scientific problems with this are enough, but to be honest, like his claim is dead.
So my interlocutor from a scientific research takes only the things favoring his argument and rejects the conclusion of the same study he quotes. If the fossil record was so radically inconsistent, as he claims, why the scientist he quotes still believes in common ancestry? My argument that the Islamic creation story doesn't make sense comparing to the fossil record was from the 2.5 billion years of life on Earth, we had about, let's say, 6 billion different species that appeared in all history. So, according to this model, Allah 6 billion times all around history said, let this animal appear, and it appeared from thin air. Let this animal appear. Let dogs appear. Let cats appear. Let ants appear. Let spider appear. That makes magic more common than gardening. That is the problem. And it's consistent with the Islamic creation story.
Tim, however, is just interested in the evidence.
Then the Islamic creation story claims that Adam was created from scratch. Then how you explain these fossils? Gradual fossils from an ape to human. Did God wanted to make a prank to make humans believe in evolution? Then you said something about the homology argument, that scientists just see similarities and conclude common ancestry. No, they see similarities, gradual, not time crossing, and geological time consistent. So it's not just similarities. Then the Hadith claims this about humans, about Adam. Is this consistent with a fossil record? So, if you don't want to be a complete hypocrite, you need to reject also the hadith, because it's totally inconsistent with the fossil record. Thank you very much.
Bismillah. So this is the closing statement for the debate. I think my interlocutor has helped me prove that human evolution and belief in Darwinism and common ancestry is just based on blind faith, and it actually contradicts the evidence. Let's get started on the closing statement because I have a lot to go through. The fossil record. Firstly, my interlocutor says if I accept what evolutionary biologists say on fossil record, why don't I accept neo-Darwinism? Well, for the simple reason because fossils are real. They are empirical data. The whining about common descent and neo-Darwinism is the interpretation of the data that is contradicted by the real evidence that we actually have. And secondly, just to hone on this point, Christians and atheists usually refuting when whining against Islam, they will quote Muslim scholars, right? Just because you're quoting a Muslim scholar, does that mean you have to become a Muslim now? The level of stupidity here is actually quite impressive. Secondly, my interlocutor was arguing that why did Allah make it look like humans evolved from chimps or basically something similar? Actually, Allah didn't. Like, your entire argument is based on circular reasoning, false assumptions, and is contradicted by data again and again. So unless you can't make the claim that Allah made it look like human evolution occurred. Secondly, there was a lack of response to my argument. There was no response to convergent evolution, no response to human behavior contradicting neo-Darwinism, no response on the circular reasoning. My interlocutor was saying that basically biologists don't just look at similarities and claim common descent, they look at the timing and dating and location. Firstly, you don't have timing and dating and location in most cases. Secondly, even if you did, still you're making the assumption that similarities are due to common descent. This is what you need to prove, and because you cannot prove it, this makes the entire argument circular reasoning. Now, the claim is that in the Islamic model, God intervenes more in the world, right? Okay, so what? You are claiming God didn't create life, right? You need to prove it. This is what you are claiming. If you can't prove it, don't claim it. Secondly, a response can be the Muslims are claiming it did happen, right? Both of us are making claims. Both of us need to prove our claims. We need to prove it happened. You need to prove it didn't happen. If you can't prove that, stop whining. The next claim is that the fossil record contradicts Islam because Islam says all species arise at once. This is a lie. Seriously, bring an ayat or a hadith that says that all species arise at once, otherwise stop lying. Next point that was brought in the debate is that there are transitional fossils and basically these support Darwinism. This is false. There are numerous cases and there are perfect temporal order, time-wise order in the fossil record. This is false. There are numerous cases of well-known temporal paradoxes in evolution. For example, there is a well-known temporal paradox in bird evolution. In whale evolution, we have a problem where a complete whale appears before most of its supposed ancestors are found in the fossil record. Tiktaalik was a well-known fossil record that is a transitional fossil that is no longer considered a transitional fossil because basically its supposed descendants are found before it in the fossil record. Next point is regarding the height of Adam alayhi salam. The claim is we don't have fossils of human that size, and this refutes Islam. This doesn't refute Islam because the expectation is that we would have assumption is that we would have fossils of most of the species. This is false. We don't have fossils of almost 99% of all the species. If this is something even atheist evolutionary biologists admit. So if that's the case, how can this be used as an error against Islam? In conclusion, I think my interlocutor has helped me just bury Darwinism and prove why common ancestry and neo-Darwinism is just based on blind faith. Till next time.